Right, so let's take a look visually at how the standard deviation, the IQR, and the range kind of compare to each other. So I've drawn a symmetric curve here, just a basic bell curve, and I put the standard deviation in so you can kind of see what one standard deviation looks like in that picture. I've made a box plot, okay, and so you can see where the IQR is. So in this case, it's a little bit bigger than the standard deviation. And then the range. The range will always be the biggest, or worst case scenario, they're all equal, but the range should be the biggest one. Okay, and so let's look at this with some numbers. So I have a data set of 7 numbers, and I've calculated all 3 of these, and I want to take a look at these. So, oops. For the mean and standard deviations, remember those two go together, center and spread. So the mean of this set is 29.14. And so to make this calculation, you take each data value, so 23, subtract off that mean and square it and add them all up. So kind of a really crazy formula. We will not do this by hand. We're going to do this in Excel. So for this data set, it comes out to 4.375, which is fine. And then let's take a look at the IQR next. So that involves Q1 and Q3. So kind of a little bit more inside of your data set. And so I got 8 for the IQR here. And then the range is going to be those further numbers out because it's the max minus the min. And so here I get a range of 12. So just to kind of give you a sense of how those numbers compare with the data set and picture-wise. And then we're going to go ahead and finish filling out the rest of the table. So to find the range, that's the max minus the min. If you're doing it in Excel, you do need to find the max and min separately and then subtract them, and that'll give you the range. There's no command that makes that easier. For the IQR, it's Q3 minus Q1. It's the same thing. You got to find the third quartile and the first quartile separately and then subtract them. The standard deviation, though, is that really gnarly formula. But there's a nice command in Excel for that, and that's equals STDEV. Then you'll open a parentheses and put your data in there. So like the quartile, there's an STDEV.S.P. There's a whole bunch of different ones in there. You just want the basic one that's STDEV. All right, so let's look at when to use these and what measure of center they get paired with. So the range, you can use that anytime you want, and it doesn't really, there's not a specific measure of center that it gets paired with. So you can always use that one. For the IQR, we want to use that with a skewed distribution, and it pairs with the median. So median and IQR go together, and then mean and standard deviation go together. And those are for a symmetric distribution. All right, so only one of these is resistant to outliers, and that's the IQR. So if there's an outlier, the IQR doesn't change very much at all. If there is an outlier, then the range and standard deviation will change. They are not resistant to outliers. So you do have to be really careful if you have outliers and you're looking at the standard deviation or the range.